Hey there, Gemini. So this is your forecast taking you from the total lunar eclipse in Virgo on the 13th, 14th of March, right the way through the waning period until we get to the new moon in Aries on the 29th of March, which is also a partial solar eclipse. So 2 eclipses, and we got the forecast in between. So my name is Louisa Tanner Munson. If you're new to this channel, welcome. I practice what I call feel good astrology, which is all about using astrology in such a way to create a bit more space for you, a bit more of the luxury of possibilities in your life. So when I'm looking at astrology for you, Gemini, whether you're Gemini ascendant or Gemini sun, this forecast should be able to give you a little nudge as to where there might be some possibilities to expand and explore, and maybe how you might choose to use the planetary energies to their best. If you're a regular here, welcome back. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. I love you. So anyway, let's bring up a few thoughts. So I'm going to start by really describing, first of all, that we are going through the waning moon phase. And what that means is we're starting at the full moon and going from the full kind of illumination and yumminess and also panic and overwhelm, which can sometimes come with a full moon. Plus, it's an eclipse, first eclipse of the year. So the energies of this particular time are going to be super strong and very hard to ignore. You might find it useful to listen to my previous one, which was guiding you up to this point, because it will have described, kind of where it was activating in your chart and so on and so forth. But, we've got to the other side of this. This is, after we've had the full illumination of where our energies so far have brought us. And, are they still working for us or not? And often we get a little bit overwhelmed. We can feel deeply creative. We can feel like there's a lot on our plate. And so immediately after the full moon, we're coming into this period of letting go for the next 2 weeks. In particular, in this first week of the 2-week period, we're actively letting go. It's part of an active process with the illumination. We can consciously see what we might choose to let go of and why. So I really do see, it is a time where we need to offload and cleanse. So, we are coming into that time. Then around the midpoint, we've really got a choice. We're going from externalized conscious thought into the world of internalized unconscious, not, we're not so aware of it. There's not so much light lighting it up. So we're coming to this time of the unconscious where, we're dealing with the mysteries of life and so on and so forth. And, then we're going into a place, I think, of letting go with trust and faith. As far as I see, we're going into a place of massive allowance and we're slowing down, we are slowing it down. And then we come to the time of the new moon where we have a clean slate, hopefully, especially with this one, because this one will also be in eclipse. So it's a new moon in Aries, a partial solar eclipse. So it's like a clean slate, new moon in Aries par excellence. How are we going to use that? So really this 2-week period is clearing the way for us to make new decisions. And there's a lot going on in this 2-week period. So I often find it helpful to look at things in a diary format, hence why I've done this for you. But what I absolutely recommend focusing on is, so we've got this full moon, we've got the new moon, and we've got the third quarter point sort of halfway through. This is the midpoint. This is all in our sort of full conscious awareness, and this is where we're really working in the dark and allowance and trust. But can you see all the things we've got going on? I mean, it's a lot. And so we're, on the day of the full moon, not only do we have that going on and it's an eclipse, but the sun and the moon are connected to Uranus. So the sun's in a sextile to Uranus, the moon's in a trine to Uranus. So whatever is going on and coming up for us at that time, we are in a place of needing change, wanting change, where quick, short, incisive moves can really freshen things up. So, I mean, that's pretty exciting on its own. But the very, very next day, Mercury goes retrograde. So at this point, and, it's a Virgo moon, so it's got to do, Virgo's ruled by Mercury. It's funny, Mercury's pretty much at a standstill at the time. But Mercury goes retrograde, and he's going to be retrograde throughout this whole period. Let's not forget that Venus went retrograde already, and she's already going retrograde during this. So they're going to be working together, both Venus and Mercury going retrograde at the same point, from 9-10 degrees in Aries to 24 to 26 degrees Pisces. It's a very, very strong kind of spot in our charts at the moment. 16th is pretty quiet. That's nice. But then we've got a series of sun-based things going on. So the sun makes a conjunction to the North Node. Then we've got the sun making a conjunction to Neptune. Then we've got the sun going into Aries. So we've got the spring equinox in the Northern Hemisphere. We are coming into autumn in the Southern Hemisphere. So this is the start of the astrological new year. So that's why I put Happy New Year in. To me, I follow the planetary new year, not the man one, on the 1st of January. So we've got the new year, and boy, is it a big, big new year. Check out my forecast for that, by the way. They're coming up just in time for the new moon. But we're going to have Venus going into sextile with Pluto. That's stimulating. Venus is retrograde, but it's not a massive aspect, but it's still quite stimulating. And then we've got Venus in a conjunction with Venus, a conjunction with Mercury. So the sun in a conjunction with the North Node and Neptune. The sun was also in a conjunction with Saturn just the week before, by the way. So it's like Saturn, North Node, Neptune. Some real strong energies there. Then it moves. Then we've got the sun making a conjunction to Venus retrograde. So let's specify that. Retrograde and Mercury retrograde. Now, all these conjunctions are also known as Cazimis. And I will be doing a video about the Cazimis, but suffice to say, leading up to this point, as the sun's coming closer to something, it's often, as it gets closer, we say it's under the beams. So it's getting closer, and the planet is getting drowned out a little bit. The sun kind of takes center stage. It's pretty big. And then it gets really close to the planet, and it's known as being combust. Then that planet, like Neptune or Venus retrograde or Mercury retrograde, they're not so obviously apparent. They seem to be a bit like underwhelming, in comparison to the sun. And then actually, as the sun and this planet sort of really connect within a very, very tight orb, the sun appears to be kind of illuminating that planet. And then all of a sudden there's this beautiful kind of momentum called the Cazimi, and it's a moment where we really see that planet. We really get the juice of that planet in a really big way. Beautiful. But then it sort of goes the other way. So then it becomes combust again as they separate, and it's all about the sun. And then it takes a while longer for that planet to be free of being under the beams with the sun. It's still within range of the sun's beams. So Neptune, Venus retrograde, and Mercury retrograde are not very strong at the moment, but interestingly, they're all going to get illuminated with the Cazimis, and that's 3 Cazimis in a 2-week period in between 2 eclipses, also with the astrological new moon. The astrological new year. I think that's big. Let's, also the sun in a conjunction to the North Node. So the North Node is about our destiny, our feeling of, are we in our karmic alignment? Are we on track? Beautiful. So the sun is bringing us into the awareness of our destiny. Are we going in the right direction? So for you, Gemini, I think this is going to be an interesting time. The sun naturally rules your 3rd house, which is to do with your neighbors, your cousins, your siblings, all the people you've grown up with, your usual narrative that you've been living your life by. So the sun is really going to be doing a number here and creating a big movement over these 2 weeks. So it's great. As we come to the end, we've got 2 mega days as well. So we've got Mars in a square to Chiron. This is the 3rd square to the Chiron, between Mars and Chiron. The first one was on the 13th of October, the second one on the 4th of February, and this will be the last one on the 26th of March. So however you were feeling around the 13th of October, think a few days before, a few days after, and the same with February. If you were having if you were very, very sensitive all of a sudden. It could very well be the Mars square Chiron, and I will be talking about this as I actually look at your chart. This will be the last one, so you might resolve that sensitivity. I've looked back at my own chart and thought, oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I did kind of freak out around that time, both those previous times. I might map it down with my husband later and go through it and go, oh, okay. So we know what's coming up. I really see there's a lot of resolution coming up. And then on the 27th, like Venus is retrograding into Pisces. So we're getting another beautiful, like Venus is very happy in the sign of Pisces. She is beautiful and sort of exudes her magic there. But then she makes a conjunction with Neptune. Now, this is the second conjunction between Venus and Neptune, I believe. And then will be another one coming, as she goes forwards again. This is very special. And these are absolutely, all of this, I think, is clearing the way for a rather spectacular new moon eclipse in this new year. So, it's big. And I put in this, you might not know what this means, a VSP, Venus star point. There's something with the Venus retrograde pattern, and I will be talking about this in my Venus retrograde part 2 video, which I'm going to be releasing around about the 20th of March, hopefully. Based on the work of Ariel Gutman, she wrote a cracking book all about the Venus star points and the retrogrades and the patterns that she makes. But essentially, we're going through a process. Venus, she's known as the evening star and the morning star, and she'll be the evening star up until a particular point, and then she'll turn into the morning star. But a bit like the story of Jesus, like rising up and coming into his resurrection, and also the fact that from the winter solstice, the sun doesn't appear to come up. But on Christmas Day, all of a sudden, there he is. There's the sun. Boom. We've got the idea of like Venus, she disappears on the 23rd on this particular day, and then she reappears on the 27th. So my question to you is, what does Venus represent in your chart, and what's coming back up? So the evening star is going to die, and she's going to be resurrected as the morning star. So there's a lot going on. So let's have a look now and see how this might look. Actually, before I do that, I just want to put a shout out to all of the people that help to support this channel. These are people that have supported the channel either consistently or last year or this year so far. So a massive thank you to all of you in all the different ways you support the channel. I do have other ways now. People have been asking me for a while. I now do have a community space, which is a place where you can support me and also get some extra material. For instance, this is a forecast just about Gemini, but if you were to support my channel and invest in the community, you'll also get the love forecast and the money forecast for Gemini during this time. So just putting that thought there for you. All the details are below. So anyway, I've drawn up 3 charts. So this is the first one. This is for the total lunar eclipse in Virgo. So you can see that there. And then I would normally do it from the moment we get into that third quarter, but I figured the Happy New Year, when the sun goes into Aries, would be a good point to do our mid waning period chart, so you can see what that's looking like. And then the last one is the new moon in Aries. So if I just go back, you'll see the moon wiggle round. So the first one, the moon is here in opposition to the sun. The second one, the moon has moved around this far. This is, when the sun goes into Aries and the moon is in Sagittarius. And then the moon's going to make the journey right the way through to Aries. And that's where we see the sun and the moon at the time of the new moon. So let's unpack this a little bit for you, Gemini. So yeah, from the full moon, which is taking place really in this home space for you, this part of your chart is absolutely about the home. And so in my last forecast, I know for sure I'd have said that this would have been working at a home level, showing you where things have got too much at home. some of your behaviors that have come from your childhood that have got too much, and they've brought so many different things into your life that now it's time to thin them out and say, okay, I need to grow beyond this. I really do see that the fourth here is very much about us in our childhood. I mean, yes, it does represent our home and our family, but I really see that this is very much a very sort of private place, and often shows what's accumulated up until the point we leave home. And then up here is really like our away. I think of that. I don't even know if that program's still around, Home and Away, from Australia, the soap opera. But, like home and away, or child and then adult, like this is where you're really standing in the world and showing everyone who you are. And this is actually where you take some comfort, and it's very, very private. And so this big ass old eclipse in Virgo is likely to have stirred things up in terms of how comfortable and safe and secure you feel. And, you'll know what do you need to make changes on to feel a bit better. Now, obviously, Gemini, you're ruled by Mercury. And so Mercury is going retrograde the very next day. So currently, at the time of the lunar eclipse, as we start this forecast, Mercury is in, sorry, Mercury has, is at round about 9 degrees, 8 or 9 degrees in the sign of Aries. When he gets to 9, he goes retrograde, and he's in this part of your chart, which is absolutely a place of sociability, in a place of shared dreams, shared values and visions, and, maybe where you are creating something with somebody else, really in a place of collaboration. It really is where this kind of broader, larger version of yourself is. I really see that this is a very social house. This is where friendships, but not necessarily your close friendships that you grew up with, or friendships that really understand you, people that come from a similar place to you. This, I think, really shows like friends of friends, the resources that you might have in your career. This is a place, I think, where there's a lot of career negotiating going on, and where people come into your life through someone else that is deeply connected to you. So having Mercury going retrograde in this bit, as well as Venus going retrograde in this, I think is bringing up a very sort of different new strategy. Like, it's time for a new strategy about the people that are coming in. Do you need them all? And if so, how are they all working out for you? It's not a surprise that both of these planets are going back into your 10th house, which is all about your career and how you stand in the world as an adult. I mean, to me, there's a much bigger picture going on. I think if you're going to be dreaming big and collaborating with people, you want to make it work for you, and you want to have the right people in place at the right time. And so I really think you're kind of recalibrating, going back into the place of career, going back into this place of power, and thinking, okay, well, hang on a sec. What was I creating, and is it still on track? Where have my insecurities and my feeling that I might have a lack of safety that has arisen around the time of this total lunar eclipse, where is that, got me a bit more insecure? What do I need to amend? How can I get back into security, not just in my home life, but in terms of me as an adult? To me, what really occurs to me is maybe that your contacts, or what you're creating with people, has kind of run away with itself, and you need to kind of tighten it up and get much clearer about it. I mean, the sun, which is going through massive changes in this 2-week period, just last week was in a conjunction with Saturn, showing that it's time, like, you're very, very serious about what you're putting out there. You're very serious about advancing at the moment and putting your best foot forward. Now the sun's coming into a conjunction with the North Node. To me, that's really showing that you're kind of getting back on track, and you've got a sense of what's coming up. You do have a sense of that, and then the sun will make a conjunction with Neptune. It'll be it's Neptune is about to go into this part where you're going to dream big with people. But to me, the sun coming into Neptune, it's whispering in Neptune's ear and saying, look, we're going to do this before you come over here. Like, get your, get a clear view of what this person what I am about. The sun is your ego. This is your personality. So your personality is talking to Neptune and saying, yes, you can be like creative and inspirational and playful and unconditional. However, these are the rules that he's brought from Saturn and the North Node. So it's like there's this big sort of conflab going on in it's almost like there's a business meeting in your mind going on with all the different archetypes. And it just so happens that Mercury and Venus are coming back into this conversation. There's something really big that you're brewing up right now. Now, here's the next thing worth considering is both Venus and Mercury are making this trip back into your business conversation. The sun is going to connect with both of them and create a moment of genius. The conjunction with Neptune as a Cazimi, the conjunction with Venus, a Cazimi, the conjunction with Mercury, a Cazimi. I will put into the community the exact times of those Cazimis so you can absolutely plan those. So again, that's another benefit. If you're part of the community, you're part of this conversation. So they will be there so you can use those. But the sun is coming into these, but then the sun is going to meet the moon at the point where both Mercury and Venus went retrograde. And to me, even though they're still doing their retrogrades, I think by the time the new moon in Aries comes up at this point, the sun and the moon, so it's like your personality and your psyche, your external, your yin and your yang, your masculine and feminine, it's a balance point, there's a clean slate. To me, it feels like it's time to go and move forwards. So whatever you're creating for yourself in your career, and I will be talking about this in the career forecast, by the way, in a much greater detail. But to me, it just feels like you're ready to go forwards. And there's some very big themes going on about this right now. So I'm just going to step you forwards. So the moon right at the start is in Virgo, then goes into Libra. And for those couple of days until it goes into Scorpio, I really think you're in more of a creative mood. It's really good for you to lighten up and do what makes you feel kind of happy and buoyant and that you feel passionate about. During the time when the moon is going through Scorpio, so between the 17th and 19th, it's time to, get your head down a little bit and to get everything working in your life. So if there's unpaid bills, if there's things you need to get at, like recycle, go through all the things that are kind of hanging around and slowing your life down, really get it moving again. As the moon goes into Sagittarius, it's in this very sort of gregarious place. It's going to put your emphasis into your partnerships, which I think will be pretty good fun. During that time, the sun is going to come into a conjunction with Neptune, which can be happy and romantic as well. So it's not just about this great big business meeting in your head. And then we're sort of coming into this Happy New Year stage. So I do think that as we're coming into this Happy New Year, Happy New Astrological Year, there is a feeling of buoyancy. Your Happy New Year starts with the moon in this place of relationships, which is light-hearted. To me, it feels like this support from other people. And then the 22nd to the 24th, the moon is heading through Capricorn. Now this is a time when you're going to be having aha moments. This part of the chart is absolutely about a place of where you might move from one stage of life to another. You let something go, you process something, you work through a trigger. It's a place where there's a lot of other people's values and stuff whirring around in your head. So a lot of stuff can get done during that time. And during that time, you've got your Venus Cazimi on the 23rd, and then the moon goes into Aquarius, your 9th house, where you're encouraged to think big and think beautifully. And the moon is going to make a fantastic grand trine with Pluto and Uranus in the South Node. So it is absolutely wanting to transform something. So the 23rd to, let's say, the 26th is you're really coming into a time of invention and reinvention of yourself. But during that time, the moon is doing that. You've got the Mercury Cazimi going on. And then the moon comes into Pisces And that's on the 26th. Now, do you remember me saying, that the old Venus is kind of dying and this new Venus is coming up? So right now, the old Venus is getting ready to rise up again. The morning star Venus is going to arise on the 27th. But just before then, we've got the moon in Pisces. It's very gentle, very delicate. Mars makes his last square to Chiron. Again, you might be reminded of something that was going on around mid-October, kind of trigger period, and also early February. And again, that trigger period could really bring up stuff to do with who are you collaborating with, like Chiron in the 11th, and how are you earning money, and how is this collaboration affecting your income? How is this collaboration affecting your outcomes? There's a lot going on with that. And then just right at this end of this 2-week period, I just think everything that's going on is helping you to clear a path, clear a clean slate. But the very last movements, so the moon is going through Pisces, Venus retrogrades back into Pisces, makes a lovely conjunction, very dreamy conjunction with Neptune, very, very powerful. The moon crosses beyond them. So you've got Venus, Neptune, the North Node, and the moon all together. The moon goes into Aries, and then we've got the new moon. So right at the end of this 2 weeks, boy, does it get dreamy, ethereal, almost as if you could be dreaming like really trying to create your highest outcomes for you in your life. Now, obviously, you will get other opportunities. I'm not saying you have to do it all now or not at all. But to me, as I'm looking at this is a really, really great time. And there's a lot of magic you can create in your life around this time. And it's in such a strong place right at the tail end of Pisces. Really, really strong. So, yeah, I do see this 2-week period is, as you're coming into this time when we've got the lovely, fresh new moon in Aries, in the new astrological year. Look at this lineup here. Look at these sextiles. It's coming into a time of real busyness and collaboration. There's just such great energy. So there you go. I hope this is helpful to understand the next 2 weeks for you. Like I said right at the start, if you do want to go deeper, even deeper than we have right now, you can support the channel. So I've got a school community, and every 2 weeks I post additional forecasts for Gemini. Whether you've got Gemini Ascendant or Gemini Sun, you will have access to all 12 forecasts, for each star sign, because you might want to check out your friends or your families, etc. But there are the love forecasts, which is looking at the relationship and connection, and also the career and ambition forecast, which is really looking at the money, and so much more. So have a look if you're interested. All the details are below. But anyway, have a spectacular 2 weeks between these 2 eclipses. Very, very strong time. I look forward to hearing what you're manifesting. Lots and lots of love. Bye for now.